the things you see. Walk through the world with care, my love, and sing the things you see. Let new names take a root and thrive and grow. And even as you stumble, and in city and in forest, let the larks become your chorus.
In order to get to the root of this, we have to address the fundamental disconnection between humans and the natural world.
Bigger storm surges, more powerful cyclones, and severe droughts. These are only some of the many effects of what is called climate change.
When it happens, time where you start making more development, you may run too much slow truck, you may make them too much push fire, you may fly too much slow plane, you may cut them too much forest, make them say all start increasing amount blow carbon dioxide and top of atmosphere. Time when we start increasing amount blow carbon dioxide on top of atmosphere now, it makes him say hemi limited heat. And time we hemi limited heat low wall too, it makes him say salt water too hemi warm. After salt water hemi start expand, hemi start come on top. And then you tell him say you start looking say cut sea level rise. After one valla something to say time where wall blame become more warm. After it make him say all ice will only start all mountain, all ice will start North Pole, South Pole. Okay, that will start melt, will start cotton salt water, will start full up salt water. It make him say you may cut sea level rise. So now when we link where we stop between development, climate change, more sea level rise.
Small islands like Pele off the north coast of Efate are some of the most affected by climate change. One of the worst effects for the people of Pele was the fact that their wells had turned too salty to use.
Yes, you got 4 villages lo Pele. So every 4 villages lo Pele, mi wala use underground well, blow wash, blow swim, mutu blow cook, mol kakai blow mi wala. You like no more use more underground well run lo all villages lo mi lo Pele. From no more any salty na ya at the moment during the time where water is no more good, any salty. So pula family yes only worry too much lo another beginning lo mi li garam water lo drink.
Yumi we mi stop along the coastal area, yumi depend planted lo water we mi stop lo crown, be mi stop colossal salt water. Okay, time where you make time where wall blame he become more warm after you make sea level rise. After by make him say salt water by make him sabe go inside lo all water where him start maintaining lo crown, and then him sabe change him test plan by make him say test blow water him sabe become more salty. Him say by him sabe become more salty by him no good blow you sabe go use blow drink.
Since well water is now too salty to drink, in all 4 of Pele's villages, there is only one natural water source for Pele's 400 people. But even that source is in danger during drought.
Water before you run more speed, I think I take one day or some no blame me. The same is full up. After I can do time me fly, yeah, 2000 I will go in a more run fast. Time can time low sun. Lo transition water tropicatani saya tekem 2 days full up.
Before 2015, large trees on the hill above the water source helped protect it from the effects of drought. But when Cyclone Pam slammed into Pele in 2015, these trees were destroyed, further leaving the water source vulnerable.
Every family feel that mi lady all beginning blue mi bali only sick from me no got water, enough water to drink. So that's why me try another way to find another source of water. But I help my family blow. I get enough to me save more people.
Rainwater catchment provides some relief for the people of Pele. But in times of drought, even this water can be in dangerously short supply.
People drought last year, me face shortage of water. So rainy no come too much. So me no more use of rainwater, but me pay water lo store. Fortunately enough to save water, blow feeding it, blow decide rain.
Another effect of climate change on small islands like Pele is an increase in the strength of cyclones. Category 5 cyclones and the waves these cyclones bring cause huge damage to coastlines throughout the islands. Pele's coastline has been ravaged in recent years by surges and higher tides. Many trees along the coast have been lost already, and more are in danger of being destroyed.
Okay, for something, mangrove stop protect them coastline. Mangrove one tree we supposed to make soil erosion. Mangrove stop actually someone safe. But currently mangrove stop.
To make matters worse, some private companies have cleared mangrove areas on some islands. Mangroves provide a natural protection for coastlines against both storm surges and erosion.
Only clear mangrove here from only one company want them to build him one slipway place. So I recent from only clear mangrove here, make them place clean and then only tiki go on top.
Vanuatu's Environmental Protection Act and Foreshore Act require an environmental impact study be completed and consent given by the Minister of Internal Affairs before any foreshore development, such as cleaning mangroves, is done. However, this doesn't always happen, and developers sometimes make payments to bypass this process.
Low environment low protect them mangrove want something with man no sabe karam until time if start to make them robotical environment unit then over the take them up stand blow company blow talent blow se when we make them.
Mangroves also provide a safe breeding ground for fish and other coastal animals like crabs. Protecting mangroves helps protect the food supply for many coastal people.
You think about mangrove, not just one tree, stand up. You got full of narafla life something only life underneath them. So once you out them one side only all mangrove also, just pull them to all narafla life something only depend on mangrove only. Also life. Time when we look mangrove only destroy also, time you in full flow activity also, you are no good from. You miss have something now where you not just mangrove me out, pay kat all nafla like something too, list up we or that too must lose some place blow kata we mangrove.
To protect coastlines, a number of communities and groups like the Vanuatu Network have begun major efforts to plant mangrove seedlings in open areas.
Important to tell them about kata from na you mean plant mangrove. One me to pot freeze me blow protect them coastline believe all people really understand them important to mangrove from all communities full of most of the time or kata ligam ko mangrove area blow collect them all one them something will want them guy example crabs or any cells inside the mangrove.
But in some areas like the coastal areas of Pele, coastal erosion has destroyed more than just trees.
That's evolution ya obviously. Rawan na lang yazu. Ro sage ro barua na ne beswad mai.
In Launamore village on Pele, the rise in ocean levels and waves from stronger cyclones have destroyed the village's cemetery. For generations, the people of Launamore buried their dead in this cemetery. But now most of the gravestones and the bones underneath have been washed into the sea.
Mating waya yang tiang nau. Wai fatu kana wai. Benam lasi. Wai ya mang wai kana hoi ora. Nai paklau pan hone. Ako yo boglinem tormaya poron po na tamulia sa. Ora nam las. Tigim ubes urun urung desa. Family urung desa. Thank you.
The effects of climate change also include warming the ocean. Warmer ocean water is helping kill some of the coral reefs that provide essential fish stocks that the island people rely on for food. The effect of warmer ocean water killing the coral is called coral bleaching.
Now, coral bleaching emi time we coral emi ilusum kalaplehem emi clear and white. So ikat nafla something to emi back them all coral reefs to emi crown of thorns. Crown of thorns to time emi kakai coral emi save become white.
The population of crown of thorns starfish is also becoming greater as the water temperature gets warmer. These invasive starfish contribute to the killing of the coral reefs.
Once that coral emi then rappel usum I pro ki voltanista pa I look say no provide them house fish. Most lo areas lo vela do crown of thorns emi kaka emi rappel.
To help replenish some of the dead coral, communities and environmental groups like the Vanua Thai Network have started efforts to replant coral.
Community kat plant a consens lo all coral reefs from no more yumi start lo one small island, but no more from people no community only depend plant lo reef from source lo income lo kita. Only make sure say kat enough kakailo table. Outlaw first pilot one trial one lo 2018. Well looks me very successful and one successful project where muna pele mo SPCT asin to ini-stop initiative lo Pele Island. Emi one lo successful one. Ikat all volunteers to only kin only one time come lo help.
For islands like Pele, the effects of climate change on people's lives is immense. It is affecting their food supply. It is affecting their water supply. And it is making their coastlines vulnerable to storm surges and rising tides. Unless the causes of climate change can be reduced, people on islands like Pele may find that their island homes may no longer be able to sustain them. Until then, they have to learn to adapt to their changing environment as long as is possible.
Hello, happy Earth Day everyone. This is the London Climate Change Festival YouTube live channel. We are here celebrating being on Earth today and the many glories and gifts of this planet. We started London Climate Change Festival about 20 months ago and we're going to do an 8-week festival in London last year before COVID struck and we had to cancel it. However, we kept working on it and tonight you'll see the fruits of our labours in Song for Nature, a beautiful concert on Sky Arts at 9 p.m. Earth Day. The wonderful thing about being part of a group of people who care about the climate is that you never know who you're going to meet next. And my guest at the moment here, Rachel Brooks, is a very interesting woman who has a lot to teach us, and we're very glad to be to have her as part of the London Climate Change Festival. Rachel, we met just over a year ago, and when we met you, you were telling us all about the other side of the world that was experiencing climate change, in particular the happiest place on earth, Vanuatu. Tell us about that.
Okay, thanks Janie, pleasure to be here. So Vanuatu in 2006 was the first ever country to be ranked #1 on the happiness index. Since then it's sort of teetered around top 5, Costa Rica keeps getting in there. But yes, I think we talked about this earlier, but yes, so Vanuatu does seem to be perhaps slipping in the rankings because of certain threats that people in Vanuatu are facing. So the happiness index looks at various challenges, economic performance, access to sort of food and water and outdoors, but also threats from natural disasters, and that's where sort of Vanuatu really gets more than its fair share. It's a tiny country, but it's on the Pacific Rim of Fire, just sort of east of Australia, south of the Solomon Islands. So they share a lot of culture, a lot of history, a lot of geographical kind of similarities with the Solomon Islands. So yeah, we talk about Vanuatu, but this is a story that's kind of felt by many people across the South Pacific. So yeah, I mean, a wonderful traditional lifestyle over there, incredibly friendly and beautiful, wonderful, welcoming people. But these people are facing an increasingly hard time because things are starting to change. So I think that's why this work is so important, I mean, to me personally, but to potentially these people that I like to sort of think that I'm speaking on behalf of to an extent, because, you know, this climate change story is not something for tomorrow. It's not something that's like, you know, abstract, but it's actually something which is happening and affecting real people that I have the great pleasure of knowing, but it is affecting them today already.
Tell us about the work you've been doing in Vanuatu to help these moments when they suffer from, is it cyclones? Tell us about cyclones.
Okay, that's right. So what we've seen in recent years is not really an increase in the number of cyclones. Vanuatu's always sort of had a tradition of receiving cyclones in the cyclone season, but these cyclones are getting more powerful. So in the past, you rank a cyclone up to sort of category 5, and it's like the earthquake scale. You know, I don't know if you know, geographers out there, every time you go up one on the earthquake scale, it gets 10 times stronger, and it's the same with cyclones. But the recent cyclones that Vanuatu has been seeing are kind of off the scale. They're sort of 10, 100, 1,000 times stronger than the top ranking of that scale. So these kind of monster storms, we call them sort of category 5, but that doesn't really do them justice. They should be category 6, category 7. These are kind of record-breaking storms. So we have like maybe record-breaking kind of heat waves, but they get record-breaking cyclones. And I know which one I would prefer.
Yeah, God. So the Tambok project is what you've set up to look after them in Vanuatu, is that right?
So yeah, it's just a tiny charity run by a few of us here in the UK, basically to sort of do what we can to support communities over there. And we've kind of recently started some incredible work with a group called Corkin, who are young architects also here in the UK.
Hold on, we just first want to show the second video, which is the Cyclone Harold appeal. So that's there.
We cyclone ikam nilai siklem lo afternoon na tam nilai siklo afternoon everyone kat 2 or 3 hours lo blese sem time cyclone ikam nilai start hat lem
nilai nomo kat hop nilai zum tapole nomo lo protecte mo kata le fasem tat lo kaliko lo rikin lo holem tat lo metem se all baby we all small tumas pal kata se inside
si nilai safla mi start lo 6 o'clock ko ya nilai 7 denitol mut nomo kasem telait lo morning blend.
Ula pincuri mendol kapa apakah to kelas we stalo keras kata belman.
Cyclone may been destroy at possible mivla every something we must blow it post. Medicine when we stop inside, every something may be damaged.
All 5 buildings were blocked. Clinic, females ward, men's ward, maternity ward, with them ward related for use with outpatient clinic. Every 5 building have been damaged during the cyclone Harold. And everything we've been stopped inside the clinic and also damaged. Maybe including all medicine, with them all another equipment we use in the work, everything has been damaged.
Nature one, one wall, one house, I pull down the one low, one teacher's lodge. Mana, you think you are some like 3 days after.
2 hours, people like full of land. Time people like everyone low place coincide. At the same time, people are something I come, Saklon I come, you have to allow say come down.
The damage is quite possibly the worst disaster that's hit Ranwadi in its 100-year history.
You saw look at my people church house me completely destroyed. More that full of houses were only destroyed. Or trees will stand up only no more leaves.
All pala well been stopped. Lo Ranwas. Only been tell them say me best ever one destructive cyclone where only come lo experience him lo life lo algeta.
Best time lo life lo mi we look one hurricane we you'll say me damage could also me.
Never seen anything like it. The way the landscape had just been devastated.
Natanguray damage, all current only damage. By taking long time little bit lo like kasi one life we emisi lo mi la.
Ba misa talam namo si belum startem school paken pampai no possible from say lo side lo administration book I mean mo katuan ista.
School lo mi la toy town megam sol bini lo mi la ting lo ya balin sa school.
Buildings especially mi vle lusumo all teachers only still live inside all classrooms since all houses all katay full town so.
When me guest house blow all woman too and me cyclone and me been destroying good.
Cabins only destroyed everyone and full of homes only full town.
Current blow me pala. Current blow me pala no kun we take matol tari kusak-saka mo simya.
Naya mi vla fosen mi vla namo bloka ka maniok taro pe every something maniok strong taro tu iklis tamistike mi golo.
Naya mi pala kakaya sim somewhere Istanbul town here. Tam nigismanis mi pala sa kakaya coconut now.
And after him, I think by me like wait me no sabe amas yeah. I think about 5 years before me like sabe kakay one kakay we mind like sabe milk came back again with that milk block cream block coconut.
By taking yeah, you rebuild them. Then you look all building was not before.
Getting back to where we were the day before Cyclone Harold, that would take maybe a generation.
Help lo you may run maybe rebuilding back something all war we been stop but then you take him over 100 years lo
Tram lo became one help become lo yula from all family lo yun lo bisa li fese time lo site lo kakay mo house lo especially tram lo became one wave lo ketap lo help mi lo bisa mo all people mo all ni lo bibla. Ati ngemi na mo thank you.
Mi look se mi vla Londar community mi vla ni dim one evacuation center.
One evacuation center lo next time you like no more make him
lo you need suppose you need you help. If I request them say mi vla stop lo great need.
Stop lo ting lo kita. Mi vla no sa po sempre stop lo kita.
Thank you Thomas.
Bringing back all memories from you, me too, baby. Oh, my baby. Early morning sunrise, waiting tears long upon you, darling, by you. Let me go.
One of the big problems in Vanuatu is that the kind of traditional building methods and the buildings that they have today just can't withstand these really powerful cyclones. So that is a risk to life because there's nowhere for people to sort of safely shelter. It means that people lose their houses. In Cyclone Harold, in some parts, it was 95% of all buildings which were lost. So that's your house, that's your nursery, your school, your church, your town hall, everything, you know. Something needs to change in the way that construction's happening. But that's easier said than done because Vanuatu is a place, it's islands, you know, 80 islands, all of them spread out with hundreds of kilometres in between them. So, you know, logistically trying to get materials and that sort of thing out to these places is incredibly complex. So what we want to really do is start a kind of construction revolution out there, but in this kind of piecemeal way in these islands like scattered around the Pacific. But it can be done. So our last project with Corkin, which is the Ranwas build, which you'll get to see, what we did there is for the same price as a building that they could construct for themselves using materials which are already available, using the designs that Corkin kind of came up with as an incredible kind of knowledge that they bring to the table.
What do they use in the buildings?
Right, so their methods, the way that this differs from what's already happening is they use a lot more timber. So timber is fantastic already because it's a very obviously sustainable material. So environmentally speaking, carbon footprint wise, it's fantastic. But it's the way that the joints are sort of reinforced and triangulated that just means that these buildings, they can be very comparable to the buildings they already have, but they're just so much stronger. So it means that when these powerful winds hit, they're not able to separate those joints, which means that the building survives. And that's essential, basically, to break what we call this cycle of rebuilding. So, you know, there's a bit of a culture that some buildings are sort of sacrificial buildings, so you don't put much effort into them. You just sort of throw them up in a couple of weeks, and then if they fall down in the storm, that's just was going to happen anyway, so you don't mind too much. But what that means is that people are spending so much of their time building when they could be doing, they could be learning, they could be at school, they could be at college, they could be taking part in economic activities that sort of raise the community and raise the country and that sort of thing. And this is what people want to do. They don't want to be spending all of their spare time building.
Can we go to the video for a moment?
Yeah,
the Ranwas build, the Ranwas build video.
Project way bala kamu tem community with mi haram good play way one haram good long ko mi kem work ni something way bala talam say mi work mi bala mi kem long good thing way mi bala ka coming blue bala mi bala isik lo mi bala no sabe nothing mi kem mi bala isik long new plan ya mi kem se all nar bala school all nar bala visitors way bali kam oli kam sik lo hem bali surprise lo look se permanent building mi kam lo bisa project hemi number one mo hemi tope mol all Narbala primary school way up.
So
I think the whole Ranwas community have put in an absolutely amazing amount of work throughout the entire project, and it's not even just the people on site, it's everything that's going on in the background, all of the men, the women, the children cooking for us, like making sure we're feeling very comfortable. It can be easy to go about our day-to-day routine without noticing all of these little things that happen.
Long all woman mimi bin tram lo start and finish long all woman only must train long build so tawo ibele kam we only start them long megam small work mimi tu ni haram good lang from all woman only sabe megam work be from before long custom mi bele never make all woman ni work
emi one good look tu look say more female only interest plo make carpentry work. And I'm surprising too much. Lo plan the people will walk around or look say all females. Lo ofasi only come only make them walk ya.
We like canceling from. We like want them solving in it only take part. Only look something we like make them more. Only take them time from all beginning only learn differently. I say sambala li read no more only learn. But sambala li must look.
You could from in all same classroom and lower. You could from only coloring. Like good. From the classroom, we teacher when they saw recorded, but I'll teacher
it'll be interesting for them to be exposed to like a new way of thinking about spaces and like how spaces can be uplifting. Yeah, someone like William has been like incredibly helpful. Like always there to lend a hand, just really kind and friendly.
me learn something mainly frame from one design where different building where building.
The use of local material, I think we've used it really well, especially like with the bamboo. This needs to be in there because obviously it's a theme throughout the whole village, especially because this type of architecture is not common. I think you had to relate somehow back to the other types of architecture, so like the weaving bamboo and things like that, like they really do like go in sync with everything else.
Mr. Shiba may like back with them long England. Ni big pala passion where all man love Lucia only welcome you pala mo only receiving you pala long good pala heart where only cut.
More beginning next year from Sabala lista give him green light. Ni Sabala lista send them all beginning come.
You understand one teacher the classroom.
So after looking at that video, the Ranwas build, where are we today in Vanuatu?
So Vanuatu is sort of having to think about all sorts of novel ways to deal with climate change. We'll show you in a moment a video about all of those ways in which climate change has impacted Vanuatu, from rising sea levels contaminating groundwater supplies, which means that people, like whole villages and communities, don't have access to fresh drinking water.
Right.
The coral reef bleaching events, which we hear about here on the news, very much centred around Australia, the Great Barrier Reef, that sort of thing, but of course it's happening in the Pacific as well.
What causes that bleaching of coral?
So you've got a few factors. There's the waters themselves are getting warmer, but they're also becoming more acidic because as carbon dioxide kind of goes into the ocean, the acid kind of destabilizes shells and anything with kind of limestone, calcium carbonate in it, which dissolves basically into the acid. So that can destabilize the reefs. You also get with changing temperatures, like invasive species. So you basically change the entire ecosystem. So, you know, the ecosystem is this delicate balance. And so you change one thing and the whole thing can kind of tumble and collapse. So I know in Vanuatu they do have a lot of problems with species of, like there's I think an invasive starfish and some kind of types of algae which can kind of poison the reef or just kill parts of the reef. And that changes food supplies as well.
Is that still to do with climate change? That
it's all connected. Everything's connected.
Everything's connected,
Yeah,
and I
that's the
think
point.
One of the, if you don't mind, one of the things that we deal with in Song for Nature tonight, the concert, is getting back to nature, getting back to the wild.
Yeah.
And would you say in Vanuatu they've still got their hands in the earth, so to speak?
Absolutely. So, I mean, the vast majority of the population of Vanuatu lives subsistence lifestyle. So they literally grow all of their food in their own land. 100%. Sometimes they might supplement that with things they can buy in the stores. And they actually find it quite hard to imagine that we don't live like that. So it's sort of comparing lives when I'm chatting with people out there, you know, that I get everything from the supermarket, to them is something that can be quite surprising. But similarly, like for us, I think it's quite hard to imagine that people can live on their own plot of land in its entirety.
So anything that's grown there will feed them for months?
Yeah, I mean, they will have crops which you can, they'll have their January crop, their February crop, their March crop and that sort of thing. And everything's planned and you know how much you've planted, and because people have been doing this for generations, they know what they've got. They know, of course they are experts and they know what they need and they know how much to plant. But
we
then,
could learn a lot from them, maybe.
I mean, we absolutely could. It's a different mindset. It's a different way of filling your time. I often remark that a lot of our problems with climate change is to do with consumption and the ways that we're always buying things and doing things which are polluting. But there are so many other things that you can do which involve kind of engaging with nature and just being a bit more creative and just doing more wholesome activities which don't spoil the earth under our feet. But yeah, I mean, it's also delicate and precarious, and so when things start to change, it changes their food supplies, it changes the water, changes the rainfall patterns, so, you know, crops will grow at different times of years and things like that, and yeah, it's very complicated.
Yeah.
Membro village Lumla via boy. I'm stalo southeast part lo malo. Lo community I got about 83. Mano le stablo, place including mul pikinini. Lo Monday morning, the wind start blow, me keep him to flapping blow me inside the house. After me come outside the kitchen, me come blow cook. But time we stuck with the no clump, Lalu say, no, na yeah, pressure is strong. Me look say, wind is strong, too much time me go inside the house, blow me. Mommy find out say, Kappa is start blow, lift. After me sing out them, tati blow to la boy, blow me say, you try can find one way, blow put to something and that blow Kappa ya. Chief come tell us, suppose the house blow no safe, you got a map, family blow go inside the church. Tati blow to la boy, blow me come, me tell us say, me think say time, blow me move from to la picking, blow me out la house ya. After him, me say, but you move from to la cover, me say, but me move from to la cover change. La costa inside the church. Time me vla stand up, the wind start blow come strong to ma. First something will happen lo church, faranda lo church. He fly out first time. After la village say, kapatu is to make a noise. Time kapa make a noise, when he take him out first, kapa, all tatiblo mivla li nilimbaken. Kapa ya kopak. After blast inside, kapa make a noise again, only say kapa fly. After li nil again, but this time when he strong to mass, li nili kope kapa fly out no more. Sta come out, nil sta come out no more. After li no more nil. When he blow, mivla sta benchalo church, mivla all entitled beginning no more from. Mivla oli fried, oli cry. After mivla sta inside, na mivla pray. Mivla sta pray, all tadi belum mivla lista step outside. Do when he sakem do he come, he blow lem out pin blow do main do, mivla no mo save pinim. Laya all tadi belum mivla li fasema one reken lo pin blow do. After oli pulum. 130 pulum with one mami. From time oli no pulum wini do yo penu mo. After mi vla pulum vla oli pulu strong no mo with them rekena now. Mi vla stand inside look no more capable chet so lista fly. Oli fly. One time no mo we wini plus strong to mas mi vla film se whole house one day move. Time ol capable lista fly ceiling to start blow move. Time start blow move. All papa blom plan karamol stool blo church. Laki se semol li heavy stool la. After li long one, make se li press up lo all ceiling. Lo ino fall down. From you wait to lo rain. Kapai fly out finish pe. Lo foreti fly out kuko se mi kam lo small space between lo table lo ovisa with the pulpit. Lo place anu mana kapai semse stop. Ale mi fly mama mla move in with the mol pikinini kam lo place ya now lo place kapa sta mi vla sta ikatuan tati tal mi vla se chivi tale se ino mo gat place bloko po se church no mo fly out pe pa mi vla ko bakla house lo mi vla pe time look kama chai ino mo gat one house osem one house to mas stop pe roof blame no cat some wall blame no cat pe se molistana pe most all house lo village flat town finish. Then we will continue to pray after kat one papa and we come luchi we mi tale se. Pa mi preke tang. Mi vla kat one cement water tang. What I cut inside pe ikat one place where is the leaks small after that ye kam tale se. Preke tang train em out water. Posikut you make one holes after Carol mama del pignini el go save inside ya. After li katem semen kuko train em out water. What I finish. Ta what I finish pe mi vla look se wind start to kota. Mi come outside, mi come stand up pe mi no look house plo mi no mo. 3 house plo mi run flat down. Plan the house to mas you come mi vla come outside ya jem. Pam dalam se mi vla cry. Bro, Felice, I changed too much. Mula no mo lose have a place. Despite me, I've been blood. Thank you no from after mi vla believe se kote mi ole tai trum stop after lo cyclone mi la kusili pian time mi vla come outside mi vla find him se kapa fly kaselo place where mi vla stand up lem ino mo fly. So mi vla believe strong. Mi vla everyone, all village mi vla say talem se. Papa kote mi preserve place I stop. From time kapalo front he fly finish. Everyone only shoot out no more. Before cyclone, pa mi wakablo morning, ikatola breadfruit istala yat blomi pa mi pick him up. Fini mi tetula boy blomi, pa mi la big mali finish. After pa mi vla ko kitchen mi vla make a fire. Ta mi vla cook. After lo kakai mi vla make a small something the house. No more, small to small. Walk to mula house, wash and plate, process to Spain, colo plantation, takam back la house. Bedtime cyclone is strike, yeah. All things only change. Me work all morning too. Me no say seba me cook lo picnic me plo me no wanna kitchen. So now me feel him say hot now. In no kitchen plo me cook. After even suppose me want to wash and plate be. House plo me fall down with every plate plo me pro. No kat one kutla bless plo wash and plate. Suspend plo me wini plo le me ko. Me mas school ko tel suspend.
Just before we show you the video of Cyclone Harold's survival story, which is of a young woman who does something quite extraordinary to keep her baby and herself safe, that's really taking us right back to why we have formed ourselves, because climate change is, as we know now, it's part of today. It's not part of something that's going to happen, it's already happening. And Greta Thunberg, who has inspired us all with her honest and rigorous chat and words, has told us quite clearly that we have an amount of time. She tells us, after having spoken to scientists who know very, very well how much possibility we have. So it's important that from these stories that we're hearing from Rachel and from other people today, and indeed in Song for Nature tonight, we will see reasons to change the way we behave individually in our homes. We can change to renewable energy, we can insulate our homes, we can put on the heating less, we can use less water, we can buy less food, we can eat a bit less food, we can throw our food waste into a compost heap, we can keep the plastic that we have from the waste rather than throwing it in so-called recyclable bags which don't necessarily get recycled. We can do an awful lot. We can travel by means of bicycle, train, bus and foot. And of course electric cars. So we'll be dealing with that at some point, hopefully today. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, I mean, it's fantastic to actually be working in London for a change on something that's supporting something I've believed in for a very long time. So, yeah, I mean, climate change does affect us all, and working with a group of people who are also equally motivated. But I think the remarkable thing about the group is the sort of varied skills, the varied experiences, and it's very fascinating and it's very inspirational. And I kind of really hope that inspiration rubs off on the great many people out there who are hopefully seeing Song for Nature this evening, because it's remarkable, and I think it touches on something that's very important about how you can communicate this sort of climate change message in a very positive and inspirational way. It doesn't need to be preaching, it doesn't need to be making us all feel bad and panicking, but it can actually fill us with sort of this deep and profound motivation to actually do something incredibly positive. So yeah, thank you, Janie, for bringing me along and taking me on this journey. It's been a great privilege to be a part of it.
No, thank you so much for your inspiration. Thank you.
Walk through the world with care, my love, and sing the things you see. Let new names take and root and thrive and grow. And even as you stumble, and in city and in forest, let the larks become your chorus. And wherever
in order to get get to the root of this. We have to address the fundamental disconnection between humans and the natural world.
Good afternoon and welcome to the London Climate Change Festival YouTube channel. We're going to spend today talking a little bit about the making of Song for Nature, which is shown tonight on Sky Arts. It's Earth Day today, the 22nd of April 2021, and we got together 2 years ago almost and put together a lot of ideas, a festival that got cancelled because of COVID, and in the meantime continue to work on the ideas that would express what we think is necessary at this time to provide information, inspiration and hope about the way we can live to keep the planet healthy and to keep each other healthy. I have sitting next to me Sofia Priolo, who is a wonderful member of London Climate Change Festival, and Sofia came along just before we all decided to do this, and we met and talked about it at length. Sofia, you've brought a lot of dance to the actual platform here, the actual stage tonight. We have a couple of pieces that you were responsible for, and also pieces that we're hopefully going to show on the YouTube channel at some point. You've talked to me just recently about how it's influenced you as a human being. So will you talk to us a little bit about how you're behaving in your life as an individual right now?
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. So obviously wanting to get involved with London Climate Change Festival came from a place of realising something in my life needed to change. What can we do differently, but just not knowing how and wanting to learn how. And through the process of research and everything that we've been doing as a team, major changes have happened in how I live my life.
How do you travel?
How do I travel? Well, I am a cyclist now, thank you very much, a London cyclist, which is scary, but I cycle everywhere, or I take the tube if I need to, or I walk, or actually, I run. So if it's a running distance and I can do it, then I'll literally run. It's great. So that's a change. I have reduced my plastic usage by probably at least 60%. And that's one thing I really would love to say to people is the idea of, people say, oh, don't use plastic and be a vegetarian and all of these things. People go, yeah, but no, I can't do that. But actually you can to an extent, and it's not that difficult to make small changes, thinking, right, do I actually need to buy this now? Do I need to buy it in this form? Can I find this in glass or metal? Do I need this much of it? Just being aware, and then when you do have to use plastics, always recycle. Always. Just do it.
Or even keep it.
Or keep it, and you can talk about your plastic bricks, but I mean, just being conscious of our impact on the planet. We have to be responsible, and there is no excuse for not thinking about it and for not making small choices to make better choices.
It's quite difficult. It's quite difficult, I think, for people to. I mean, I know because I'm trying to do it every day, and I'm not throwing away plastic anymore. And there's a cupboard full of it. What that does is it stops me buying more because I know I'm not going to throw it away. So I tend to go to places that give you loose stuff. You go to shops where you can just do refills and buy things without plastic as much as possible because of what's happening in the oceans. But it's not an easy thing because we've got so used to living the way we live, and so much is about packaging. What do you do about packaging?
So again, it's, I can't dictate to everyone's life, but in my own life, when I need to buy food, if I need to get produce, I go to the green grocer. It is more expensive. Marginally, it is, but that's a sacrifice. I buy less food because, a little bit, right? I'm not starving, but you think, instead of buying a package of, this big package of apples. I think, right, I'm going to go get 3 apples for the next 2 days without any plastic. If I need more, I'll go buy more later. And then I don't have plastic packaging. The apples are better. And I think it's just, I mean, the how, just be aware of what you're buying. Do some research. Shampoos, conditioners, razors, feminine products, all of these things I am slowly changing into sustainable usage.
Can I just say something? Very luckily, we have Natalie Fee, or Faye, as she's now called, as part of our sort of group of people, and she's written a wonderful book called How to Save the World for Free. In it, it's so fantastic, this book. It literally tells you step by step all the things that you can, all the apps you can download, all the things that you can actually change every single day that make you a sustainable, friendly to the earth human being. And I found her book to be like a sort of Bible. How to Save the World for Free. It really is. It doesn't cost me anything to do what she suggests, and yet I'm living a very, very wasteless life now compared with before.
3 things. So 3 things that you can do right now, really easy. The first 3 steps, you can get a reusable bag for your shopping, okay, or multiple. Always have it with you. Pack it somewhere, stick it in somewhere, so you never have to get a plastic bag. Have a reusable, wooden utensil or metal
Where's yours?
utensil.
Where did you put it?
Oh, they're over there.
Okay, I'll get them.
But something that you never have to use plastic cutlery when you're out. I always have it with me, so whenever I'm out, I can just grab it, use it. A reusable water bottle, which most of us do. Yeah, here's my little stuff. So reusable water bottle, right? A little reusable cutlery. This was, I don't know, £1 maybe. You know, I take it home, I wash it, never without it. And this well-loved, re-sewn up little bag that goes with me everywhere to take my grocery shopping. So that right there, if everybody could just do this, that would be a big step. That would be a big step. And really, things like this, if everyone realized how important it was to stop using plastic and to be aware of what you're doing to the planet, we could make a difference.
Yeah. Regarding food, what do you do with your food waste? I've started to compost mine. I take the peels and I put them in the earth and I dig it all in and cover it with earth, and I've now got a box. Have you got anything like that?
Yeah, so I compost as well. So thankfully, where I live, thankfully, we have good recycling where I live. So they have the recycling bin, the waste bin, and then the compost bin as well. So I am able to separate everything in that way. It is trickier for people whose apartment complexes don't offer recycling, and I get that it's not easy, but I think there's research. You can find places where your council offers recycling stations. There are ways to do it, and I think it has to be done.
Yes, a garden is a luxury, that's for sure. Sophia, will you tell us a little bit about your dancing background and how you brought that to the London Climate Change Festival and why it's important as an artist to do what you're doing?
Yeah, so I am an American actor and movement director, and I started in the performing arts as a classical ballet dancer with the Alabama Dance Theater in Alabama, which is where I'm from. So fell in love with the arts from a young age, and then decided to transition into acting. I moved to London in 2017 to study at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama, and little by little got to know people, and then eventually met this one over dinner, and you just talked about, I have this idea for the London Climate Change Festival, and I was like, well, that sounds like something I want to be a part of, so I joined. And it became apparent when we were planning the 8-week intense festival at the Charing Cross Theatre that we wanted to pair the arts with science, and how can we merge these two to inform people, like you said, inspire and give hope. How can we use the arts, but not just the arts, be informed with the science to back it up, to really help people? So I jumped on board and started bringing in some artists, some dance artists,
And we're going to upload a video onto, when it's working, our YouTube channel by Smashworks. How did you get to know Smashworks?
Yeah, so Smashworks Dance Company is a contemporary dance company based in New York City. Their artistic director is Ashley McQueen, who was a soloist with the Alabama Dance Theater when I was in the Corps de Ballet many years ago. So she and I danced together in Alabama for years, and then we haven't really been in touch, but I knew about Smashworks through her social media. They are a company that uses dance for human rights activism and social commentary. So they dance their politics. They take issues that are concerning to them, they make pieces of art about it, and they dance it, and it's incredible. So I knew about her, and as soon as I knew we were doing this, I thought, oh, Smashworks has got to be involved. So I brought them on, and so you will see a piece that they have created specifically for the London Climate Change Festival called Renewed, about different energy sources, and it's wonderful. And yeah, Smashworks Dance.
That's a really good place to pause, because next up we have Will Todd, who has written a piece for Song for Nature called Renewal.
Exactly.
So maybe we'll piece that together. Okay, thank you.
From the moment his alarm goes off early in the morning,
there's other good news,
to shaving with an electric razor for the day ahead, longtime Burlington, Vermonter Stephen Conant, much like the rest of us, lives a life powered by electricity. It powers his toaster, his coffee maker, the fridge. But electricity matters even more to him at work, where hundreds of light bulbs at his lighting and metal fabrication company pull power from the electrical grid. But just as his company strives to use reclaimed and renewable materials in its products and designs, some of which Conant himself occasionally welds, that ethos has been embraced by his city as well. Burlington recently announced that it now produces or gets more power than its citizens use, and it's all coming from renewable sources of energy, like wind and solar and hydroelectric.
A business can't avoid consuming resources, and a lighting business like mine uses a tremendous amount of electricity. It just feels right that the electricity we're using is coming from renewable resources.
I think it's a big milestone for Burlington, but broader than that, it just shows that it can be done.
Walk through the world with care, my love, and sing the things you see. Let new names take and root and thrive and grow. And even as you stumble, and in city and in forest, let the larks become your chorus. And wherever
in order to get to the root of this, we have to address the fundamental disconnection between humans and the natural world.
I'm now so thrilled to introduce you to the man that has provided us with such gorgeous music for Song for Nature, which is playing on Sky Arts tonight at 9 p.m. Will Todd, renowned composer, is with us, and we are going to talk about his beautiful piece that you'll hear later called, well, I'm calling it Renewal, but you've just told me it's called something else.
It's called Chorale, from Songs of Renewal, but it is, of course, about renewal.
Yes. How did you first come to write this?
It was originally a commission from a choir in Bath called the Bath Camerata, the wonderful choir, amateur choir, and they commissioned this work 3 years ago. And I chose the theme of renewal. It's a really important thing to me. Obviously, it strikes lots of chords, particularly in terms of climate change, the climate crisis, the need to sort of renew the way we do things. So that was the driver, and there's 3 songs in the set. And the first one is actually, I just translated the words renew me into Latin and sort of made this chant. So the first movement is this sort of chanting, renew me idea. The middle movement is an Andrew Motion poem, and the final movement is my own words, which is the one we're using tonight.
Really? Had you written words before?
I have. I mean, I actually started life as a kind of singer-songwriter type person, writing love songs, you know, kind of love-struck teenager songs, and playing them to girls who probably said, please go away, or something like that. So that style of writing, so sort of the words and the music happening together is very much sort of my way. So in writing that song, I always work at the piano, I sort of sing and I develop it, and it was one of those lovely songs actually where it's quite simple, as you know, and yet somehow it felt strong, simple but strong. And sometimes as a writer you almost worry if something's very simple, because you think, oh, is it too simple? But of course simple's brilliant, isn't it? Because simple really can get to the heart of what we're trying to say. And I think the way the chorus perform it is just magical.
If I may just say about the simplicity, I notice that the chords that you used were beautifully thought out, and when the chorus sang together, it was very effective, and it stayed with me since we recorded, what was it now, 3 weeks ago. It's still with me. It's such an incredible melody and effort from this merging of notes. It's just an incredible sound and feeling, actually. A meditation almost on what you're talking about. For you, climate change is something that you think about daily, or is it just when we asked you to do this?
No, I think about it daily, and I have a family and I have children, and it's been a debate that we've had in our family since they were very small. My wife and I have always, since we've known each other, always been very concerned about the lack of progress on these big, in a sense, very obvious problems with some quite clear solutions available.
Name one.
Well, for example, making much more of renewable fuels and renewable technologies, for example, is one. It's wrong to say that we can't transition from fossil fuels. We can. Those technologies exist. They've actually existed for a long time. So there's a kind of a reluctance conceptually, isn't there, that people seem to have, and I get it. I get it. I try and, when I'm stressing about it, I try and remember the sort of the story of smoking, where when I was a kid, people used to say things like, oh, smoking doesn't cause cancer. Now, I don't think anyone would say that now. People might still smoke, but they wouldn't say smoking doesn't cause cancer. But that took sort of 50 years to work through the consciousness. Now, we haven't got 50 years, unfortunately. But I'm really hoping, and something like tonight's concert is such a wonderful platform for this, it's about changing people's perspectives, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, and listening to that piece, I think it was very helpful to go into a place where one really did consider the way I live. I felt when I was listening to it that I could really meditate on this earth and on life and on the duration that we have. And I know that most of my life I felt there was an impending problem coming, and this is it. And now I feel like, well, there's quite a lot of people who really do care, and we're all coming together. And certainly in Song for Nature, you feel not only the artists who do beautiful works like your own, but also the activists and the environmentalists who speak, and you'll see that tonight, are really coming up with great ideas and have good advice and are already working themselves towards making a huge difference. What we're asking at the moment, London Climate Change Festival is asking, is what am I doing? My individual effort, what is that? Can I do more? Yes, I can definitely do more. Today, what can I change? And today, for example, you can switch off all the switches in your house when you're not using the electricity that's running from them, because even having a switch on uses an amount of electricity, for example. You can change to renewable energy, as Will was just talking about. You can change the way you decide to go out. You can maybe take a walk, take a bike instead of the car. You could certainly sign up for not flying for a while. We got used to that during COVID, and now hopefully more people will be spending their holiday money at home in England, which would help the economy as well, so not a bad thing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Will.
Walk through the world with care, my love, and sing the things you see. Let new names take and root and thrive and grow. And even as you stumble, and in city and in forest, let the larks become your chorus. And wherever
in order to get to the root of this, we have to address the fundamental disconnection between humans and the natural world.